Here we have him, Alex Bull. I call him the creative goat.
I don't think I ever really fully believed that, like, I'd get a job. They introduced him, they sat him down, they started talking. The entire arena just, like, erupted. And I wanted the earth just to, like, swallow me up.
And 12,000 people, mate.
On the drive home, just looking at each other and thinking, did that just happen? That was an experience, just meeting him and how bloody tall he is.
Oh, you're all shin.
All shin, yeah. Peter Crouch, all shin. Yeah.
Lovely, man. Here we have him, Alex Bull. I call him the creative goat. People don't know what goat is. He's the greatest of all time. Very hard working. I think the main, one word I can describe is how a perfectionist. I think that you almost want and perfect things too much sometimes.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
And it's a massive credit. And for the stuff that I've done over the years, without your input and expertise, even myself wouldn't be where I'm at from having, I think, a different insight to what other people will have. So yeah, here he is, the GOAT. My first question to start this off is, you've always been, even since when I met you in school, you've always been the creative person in all aspects, and I think you visualize things different to other people. So where did that all start?
Good question. I don't know, it's always something that's come, like, quite naturally to me. I was always a guy who was sat, in the corner of the art class just drawing because I wanted to draw. Or, even if I didn't have, like, an art class, like, my, form tutor every morning was my art teacher, which was quite fortunate because I'd always just, like, any free lessons, free time, I'd just go to the art class and carry on because I enjoyed it. And I couldn't, as a sort of teenager, I couldn't really understand why, it's going to sound really bad, but why other people couldn't draw. I was just like, well, you just draw it, right? You just look at the thing and you just draw it. Like, it's just not, I know it was never really hard and I really loved it. So I obsessed over it. Yeah, and I guess it was that obsession to, just get better at it, I guess. Always, like, better yourself. I think that's something that we probably share.
Yeah.
Is that you're your own worst critic. And I think that is what builds you to the point where you never get complacent and you're always looking to get better with everything that you do. Like, there's always room for improvement. Like, you never get complacent. And even if you get to a stage where you are really, really happy with the standard of work that you do, I will always question, how can I make that better? Every time. No, it doesn't matter what camera you use, what team, like, whatever. There's always room for improvement. And I think it's just instilling that, perfectionism in everything that I do, I think.
And I think you do, because even the length of time I've known you, everything you do is perfected. And did you think, like, even in them days, because I remember you in school always, like, with D&T or design technology and stuff, with graphics, you was always heavily involved in. And I presumed, and this is maybe a bit like the outlook on other people as well at the time, like that sort of way, like, I don't know, like, I'd look at things from a young age and think, okay, what kind of journey could you go with that field? Like, at the time, we were taught when we are like, what kind of subjects you do will end up being a career path. So did you think really at the time, like, the way obviously it stems from, it's only something simple to you as drawing, do you think would really, like, spiral or channel into the journey that you had so far? Just a bit of sketching that you really love doing?
I think, like, particularly growing up in the valleys, it's like a difficult area to get into because particularly with, the older generation, our parents, grandparents and stuff, because they weren't fortunate enough to make money out of this kind of stuff. It was always a hard avenue to go down because you were never made to believe that you could make a successful career out of it, which is, I could talk for days about that within, our South Wales valleys in particular. I think that's a real talking point of discussion for another day. But I think, I if I could see someone doing something, then I know it's possible. So then I kind of apply that to myself. Well, then it's possible, so I can do it.
Mm.
And I kind of saw that with everything that I kind of did. Because if you can see something being done, then you can do it. Obviously, like someone's done it.
Mm.
Just going back to the route that I went down, I don't think I fully believed in school that I could actually make a thing out of, drawing, because it's sort of like there's a big gap between like drawing on a piece of paper and like making a living out of it. And I think throughout the years, like in education, school, sixth form, university, and that kind of stuff, I kind of like zigzagged my way to finding the thing that I wanted to do, that I was actually like passionate about, and tying that to making money. Because if you're in a position where like you have to be exceptionally good to make money out of like being a fine artist. I think you have to really have a style and have a thing, which I don't think I was like quite there, but I always had this like need to want to help people around me. So I think like graphic design and applied arts was the avenue that I really wanted to go down, because it was sort of like, cool, well, I have this skill that comes quite naturally to me, and then I could use that to help people. Logos, posters, a lot of the first couple of jobs that I did was event posters for the pub that I used to work in. I didn't charge any money for it. I was just like, cool, I can make you a poster, easy peasy, just like call it a cool name and like ta-da, done, sort of thing. But that was my way of like applying it, I think. And then throughout I originally studied like product design. I did a year of that, and it wasn't really like ticking the boxes for me.
Where's that now, in
University? Yeah. And then did a year of that, decided that wasn't really for me. I had a friend of mine who was doing graphic design. I thought, cool, yeah, that's closer to it. So moved on to a graphic design course, did 3 years of that. And during that time, I kind of, picked up a camera a few times and was always trying to like find the thing that made me tick.
Yeah.
That
was my question. Sorry to interject. So from an outside perspective, because I'm asking questions now from a normal mindset of how do you go from sketching to then all of a sudden, where did that pivot you see where you thought, right, okay, I'm not interested in just doing the drawing and the design element, but picking up the cameras and stuff, because that's obviously one of your main fortes now, isn't it? So how did you kind of cross over to that? Like, why really did you do that?
It took years, I think, because it was always like a lack of belief, knowing that I thought growing up that I could never make a living out of it. Like I'd sort of tell my aunties, uncles, grandparents, and that kind of stuff, like, oh, I'm going to do graphic design in university. It's like, what do you mean?
What is it?
People pay you to do that, do they? Logos. People pay you to do logos. It's like, yes. Yeah, they do. It's an actual thing. And it's a sort of like I think it's a bit of a mindset with a lot of people in the valley sort of like get in their own way, I think, a lot of the time. But I think over the years, you kind of like break out of that mindset and realize that, when your abilities start to attract, things, I think you start to believe in yourself a little bit more and go, oh, okay, I can actually use these skills to help other people, help other businesses, and apply it and make money. And that took years, genuinely took years, because I don't think throughout university I really believed in it. I just had an interest and wanted to pursue it. But I don't think I ever really fully believed that like I'd get a job at the end of it. I just knew I had a passion for it and I wanted to do it. And it was all it all came easy to me, in a kind of weird way, but I cared about it. So I wanted to do it. And then at the end of university, I ended up winning like 2 awards, D&AD awards, which I don't think I really understood the gravity of them at the time. And my name is actually in a book called The Best Design and Advertising Design in the World. My name's in the back of the book. I got the book somewhere. find it. But
We'll pop that in after on the.
yeah, I think that was probably the biggest pivotal moment where I went, cool. I could make a living out of this. Like, there's the proof. You know what I mean? Like, off the back of those awards, I had sort of like a handful of agencies in London approach me and go, okay, do you want to come in for an interview? Like, we want you to come and work with us. And I had all these opportunities coming up and salaries that at the time were like, cool. Like, I don't have to work in a bloody pub anymore or a calf anymore like I used to. It's like I can make money out of doing the thing that I wanted to do. And I think that was the biggest realization for me, was when I started to like attract everything to me.
Yeah. And so from there then, what were like your first steps then, job-wise, going from the large, well, because you've even learned a lot more like skill sets since that time, but like what was your first sort of career part of it after all the learning part? So what was your first job basically?
The 2 awards were kind of like the springboard to everything else. It was sort of like a bit of a shortcut. Opportunities came up in London and I went from Cardiff, which, from a guy, quite a quiet boy from the valleys, moving to Cardiff was a big deal. London scared the fucking shit out of me. Like, I thought, I don't know about this. I got all these sort of like opportunities and people asking me like, move down like within a week.
And how old were you then when this was happening?
21.
Yeah, still
21.
Still relatively young.
Yeah, but I was still like, I hadn't broken out of my shell at that point at all. I was still quiet. Like, I was relatively quiet in university. I wasn't really that outspoken or confident quietly confident.
Yeah, so I was gonna correct you then, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, then like, opportunities came up. Sorry, what was the question you said?
Your first job, bro.
First job, yeah.
Well, yeah, after like the 2 awards you won, like what was your first entry then into the?
So there was a festival held at the end of everyone who won the award got invited to like a ceremony, and I think a lot of the agencies like tap into that and they see it as a bit of a like they just go shopping for students basically, and a handful of them picked me out and I really liked one guy. I'm still working with him to this day.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, got me a job. I was sort of like a junior designer at a company called Addison Group in London. It was all sort of like, it all happened like so quickly. I even missed, there's a picture of me on Instagram where I missed my graduation because I was I was already in my first job. But like, graduation to me didn't really matter. Like, the whole point of going to university is to get a job and get in the industry anyway. So I'm obviously going to like prioritize that over everything else. And yeah, I kind of like moved to London in a matter of 2 weeks. Job opportunity came up. I ended up, I met someone at the award ceremony, who like, helped me throughout that whole like awards process. And, she let me sleep on her floor in her spare room for like a month.
Nice.
Just because I couldn't afford to live in London at the time, but I also couldn't say no to all these like opportunities that were coming up. And like all my lecturers were saying, like, if you don't take any of these opportunities right now, like you will regret it for the rest of your life.
Is that what spurred you on then? Because you've mentioned that you should scared of the thought of London. And I suppose you thought at the time that's where all the big opportunities were.
Yeah.
So what kind of tipped you over the edge to go with the decision of moving to London so early?
Everyone around me was telling me like, lecturers and like mentors were saying like all the opportunities kind of like are in London. Because I mean, I kind of felt firsthand, like in the valleys in particular, people didn't really know what this was or really valued it, and were consequently not willing to pay for these kind of services.
Yeah.
It got a little bit better in Cardiff, it got a little bit better in Bristol, but in London, like this industry was sort of like thriving, and there's loads of opportunities. And I see it as a bit of a shortcut. Like, it chewed me up and spat me out in the course of 2 years, but the progress and the people that I met in the space of 2 years would have taken me, 5 in Cardiff, 10 in the valleys. Do you know what I mean? And it was intense. And, I had 2 different jobs during my time, 2 or so years in London.
What were
Mm.
they?
Junior designer at a company called Adson Group, and I moved into motion design then at a company called Samson May. Both like really, really good jobs, but like throughout that process, I learnt a lot. I learnt the realities of the industry, the kind of like turnaround times, the managing client expectations, all that kind of stuff. All very like young and just learning my craft at the time as well. But also realizing, I think, as you kind of realize as well, London wasn't really a place that I wanted to be. And I think like there was a moment right at the end of the 2 years where I think I lost my grandfather pretty much like just before Christmas. And it's when stuff like that happens where you kind of reevaluate your life and kind of go, is this what I want to be doing? Is this where I want to be? Is this how I want to be spending my time? Because I did like, basically, I didn't see him for like a long time because I was like, 3 hours apart, and I didn't see him basically in the last like couple of weeks. And I kind of sat back and thought, fuck this. Like, this isn't how I'm spending my time. I'm not happy. I probably was depressed. Genuinely was depressed. I don't say that like lightly because
Oh yeah. No, I know what you're like. Yeah.
There's a lot of like close friends would probably agree with me. Like they barely saw me, but it was that sacrifice that I kind of made in order to make that like, accelerated career progression. And yeah, I probably would say that was probably one of the lowest parts of my life where everything was flipped on its head. And, I was kind of feeling it anyway. I knew the time in London was coming to an end naturally. I think I'd kind of got everything that I needed to get out of those like 2, like a junior position and a midweight position. I learned that like, it's no different in London as it is in Cardiff. It's just like bigger scale, like more people and like bigger clients, but they're winging it just as much as anyone else is. And it was a big, again, like another realization that like, I can do this in my bedroom. You know what I mean? You don't need to be in a big fancy office with hundreds of people in order to, prove your worth. But you tell people like, oh, I went to London and went to these studios. Weirdly, that like validates and qualifies what you do.
Yeah,
in a kind of weird way.
It does, because especially in your game, and from like an outsider like myself that doesn't have the creative mindset, I think having this portfolio of different places you've worked does give you in good stead for your career path.
It's a reputation thing. Like you have to earn your stripes, and unless you can like reel off all the clients and studios and agencies that you've worked for, from the outside, people don't really understand. It's a quick way of demonstrating your worth, which is sad, really, because some of the best people I know, genuinely, like some of the most talented creative people I know, haven't worked at those places. They just have the passion and the drive to make really good stuff. And that's kind of like the sad reality of it, really. But it was a shortcut. I don't regret that time like whatsoever, because had I not done that, I think it made me like value Cardiff, Wales and valleys, and like moving back home like was, I think I was blind to it before, because I think we look around now and kind of look at the valleys and think, well, it's just a bunch of hills, right? But when you spend kind of 2 years in London, you go, it's all right.
Like you miss the little things.
Yeah.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I learned a lot. And I kind of naturally, I think during that 2 years time, I kind of fell out of love with design a little bit, because, you kind of, with design, you do chain yourself to a desk and you forget about the real world sometimes, because, your lifestyle is literally just at the desk 9 till 5. And I think one of the biggest drivers for me that kind of drew me to like graphic design was making an impact on people. Like you want people to feel something, right? You want to design a logo that makes people go, oh, that's cool. And I think you can only go so far with graphic design, static design, because you're not playing, you've got, all the other senses that you're not hitting with people. Whereas video tick those boxes, like, sound design,
This is my next question.
Yeah,
Answer now.
moving image storytelling, like there's more components to it
Mm.
that you can really start to like make an impact on someone. And I kind of realized like after, a year or two of playing with a camera, it's like this is it. And throughout the years of like school, uni, it kind of brought me to video production, which was kind of like the end goal for me without really realizing it or being aware of it.
Would you say like that's what you're most known for now, is for your camera skills, or would it be more to do with your array? Because I know you've got an array of different. Because I know like a creative game, it's not just you have an array of different skill sets now. But
Yeah, I think they all play into each other. I think in a position where, you're a creative director, you have to have some kind of like base knowledge of all the different components and how they come together.
okay, yeah,
You know, I really value the time that I spent studying graphic design and branding because you do understand like the underlying fundamentals, but the reasons why people would ask for a video in the first place. Like, okay, well, what's your brand like? What what are the brand values? What are the what does the brand stand for? Like, okay, well then how does that feed into a video? It's the same questions that you'd ask to design a logo. It's there's a big overlap between all these different things, but how you marry those things up in a clever way is difficult. And you do need some kind of understanding or appreciation for all the different things and how they come together. Yeah. But yeah, video was, I think, like it's it's the most impactful form. Like because it's all visual communication at the end of the day. All you're trying to do is like initiate a response, make someone care. Every time we review an edit, it's just like, and I question certain changes that we make to the video. Right, make me give a shit about the thing that you're selling, or the story that you're telling. Why do I care? Make me care. How do we like adjust the sound design, or how do we tighten that up a little bit more so I care more? And that's the thing that I think was like that I was looking for through all those years. It's just how can you actually make a profound impact on someone and change people's perceptions or perspectives on things. And video, I think, is, at least now anyway, probably one of the most powerful ways to do that, I think.
And then so you were in London, 32 big job roles there, and I know then obviously, I think when I first started, to reconnect with yourself, you moved to Cardiff. Is it correct, or?
Yeah, so I moved back from London. I didn't really have a plan because I think, like I said, I lost my grandfather and I think I left my job overnight, more or less.
Right, yeah.
It happened the night before, and I think I had the Friday off to kind of digest the whole thing. On the Monday, I handed my notes in.
Mad.
I was like, it's not worth it.
Mm.
And they offered me like, oh, we can give you give you more money. We give you an office. We'll give you a team of people. We'll give you this, give you that. It's like, no, it's not about that. I don't care about that. It's all superficial material shit. Like, it's a lifestyle thing, and I'm not going to get that being here. So I quit. I didn't really have a plan. I moved back home, back in my mother. But I immediately went freelance and found my feet within a couple of weeks. I had a bit of a break, but
So what did you, when you were freelancing then, what sort of stuff were you doing? Because as you said, like this area, behind the times a little bit, what sort of stuff were you doing for companies and stuff when you moved back?
Yeah, it was a mixture of stuff. Like I still kind of saw myself at the time as a graphic designer, but then could kind of like throw in a bit of photography at the time.
Yeah.
And a little bit of video, but I was still learning video. But then I met the boys at Storm and Shelter, which was another really like monumental shift, I guess, because I learned so much with those guys there, and what they did. Some of my like closest friends, I spent 4 years working with them, like building the business, in like, high-end video production. Seeing, sort of like crews of upward of maybe like 20 sometimes. But I kind of was, they always used to call me a bit of a Swiss Army knife. They always like used to like say that because I used to, design the titles, animate them, but then be on set and AC or shoot some bits. I could kind of like throw my hand to anything, which was like I quite liked, because as a classic creative person, I get bored quite easily,
Yeah.
and I need to, feel like I'm learning or I'm stimulated by something at all times. As soon as I start doing one thing for a prolonged period of time, I'm just like, I'm not, like, it stagnates. I get bored. I need to feel like I'm moving forward with something. So, spent 4 years with them. Still to this day, some of my closest friends. And learnt probably uh, a lot of what I know now about, like, shooting video from a couple of the guys there, like, Lewis Jelly, Josh, like, all the guys there. Learnt so much from them all. But then had to kind of, after the 4 years, come to a realization that I think, without getting too much into detail with it, realized that my lifestyle kind of needed to change. I think it kind of coincided with COVID a little bit. 2 years of being, like, locked up will do that. I think similarly to the whole London shift, I stepped back again and was like, what am I doing with my life? How am I spending my time? That kind of stuff. And wanted to sort of slow down, because, I respect those guys. Like, they graft hard. And I just wasn't getting that balance right with my work-life balance, because, like we say, it's not, there's not like it's not black and white. It should be like, a blend, let's say. Made the hard decision to leave, and I do remember that I basically in my mind made the decision to leave one evening, went into the office because my boss was still there, and I sat down and I cried.
Oh, cute. No.
Because they're some of my closest friends. I didn't want to leave, but I knew I had to leave.
Yeah.
Because
so why? Sorry to interrupt, because obviously from an outside perspective, people watching want to know. You were there for a long time. When I was talking to you at the time,
Yeah.
it's probably one of the biggest companies you work for, isn't it? And a lot of, like, this
Yeah.
the high end skill set stuff you do now is from
some of the clients that he did work
I was
for.
just going to say, like, name some of the big, because you never tell people really. It's
Yeah.
the people you worked with. So
Yeah, we did stuff. We did a load of stuff for O2, a lot of stuff for Twitter. God, what else? OpenReach. We went on, like, road trips around the UK for OpenReach, which were quite fun. Like, we did a lot of music videos for bands, like Pigeon Detectives. We did some stuff. Yeah, we, like, directly or indirectly. We did stuff for, like, Little Mix. We did a lot of stuff for Yamaha, Focusrite. Public Health Wales, we did a lot of stuff for. At the NHS, like, loads of stuff, like big stuff. And for a small company in Cardiff, that was like, we were making moves. But
So why did you decide to, because obviously at the time everything was going really well, you went with these big
Yeah.
clients and stuff, but for some reason in your head you thought, well, something needed to change, so why did you choose to leave?
something wasn't satisfying me. As close as I were to those boys and as connected to the business as I felt, like, it wasn't my baby.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I had this real, like, I've always wanted to have my own thing. I think that was why I've been freelance a couple of times, because I, wanted to be in control of what it is that we were making and how we were doing it. And, like, also working for myself obviously ticks the box of, like, work-life balance. I can be in control of my own time, even though now I work more. But, like, there was always something missing working for another company, because it wasn't my company, and there was always, like, the drive to have my own thing, and shaping it. Like, I think that was always missing for me. So yeah, like, I didn't want to leave, but I kind of had to leave for myself,
Yeah.
I think. Which is kind of like what spurred all this on, really. I think in the back of my mind as well, like, things were changing in the market.
Yeah.
People wanted something slightly different to what we were offering. Or at least, there was a bigger demand for other things going
Yeah.
on at the time that I think maybe I wasn't thinking about like directly, but I think was in the back of my mind.
Because we talk about it now, but maybe you noticed before other people did in the industry that things were shifting, and that's part of being an entrepreneur as well, isn't it? Isn't realizing that what you were maybe doing was necessarily not always going to be like that, and it was shifting,
Yeah.
and maybe
I think
that's why you acted subconsciously, thinking, "Well, I need to do something different
Yeah.
because times are changing."
yeah. I think in our game, like things change quicker than ever now. Unless you respond to that change, like you'll get left behind.
Mm.
And you have to be reactive to it. You have to sense the change before it even happens to stay on top of it. And I don't know, like maybe I'd thought, because what we were doing, the work that we were producing was, I would probably say is probably one of, if not, the strongest kind of companies in Wales quite easily. Probably go as far as like, the UK, even though we were quite small, the quality of the work and the standard of work that we were doing was fucking good.
Mm.
And probably for a fraction of the price of what London agencies studios were charging. But I think the appetite was changing because like, how accessible this stuff has become as, people have caught up. And although you can, supply that level or standard of work now, a lot of other people can too. So you have to think of other ways to like add value. And I think that is just evident in how all these platforms are changing and what is actually working on them and what's not. And I think maybe subconsciously, I don't know, kind of, I don't want to say it, go as far as saying like I saw it coming. I don't know.
But subconsciously, you might have. That's what I was trying to get out of them. Maybe in your head you were thinking, "Oh, well, maybe it's time for me to leave because," and it kind of has as well. Like things have changed, haven't they? And
unless you're, I think like 4 years to spend in a job in the creative industry is a long time. Like because you have to always feel like you're learning, I think, and unless you're in a very small, fast growing company, you will always like hit a plateau, I feel. And I think after the 4 years, I probably learned everything that I could possibly learn off everyone in the company. I've got all the clients under my belt and ticked all those boxes, and I've kind of hit a point where I've got everything that I could get out of that position. So it kind of naturally felt like, this is the time to do my own thing now, because that was doing it at 28, 29. Felt like I know how I want to do it now, and now's the time to hit the eject button and go myself.
nice.
Yeah.
So you were living in Cardiff at the time with Storm Shelter, and then
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't living with them, but I was living in Cardiff. Yeah. I mean, I practically was living with them. The amount we worked together. Yeah.
so you left there. So just trying to get through from like school till current life, and then I got a lot of other questions to ask you. But
Yeah.
so from like your long stay there with them for 4 years in Cardiff.
Yeah.
And I think I even came down to see you once, and it was a very, I'll be honest, like Cardiff Bay, very upmarket, professional company. You could feel, like from an outside perspective, like a big company to work for.
Yeah.
And all just people like yourself, all creative people. I remember you had like a dog there when I came down as well.
Yeah.
Like you used to rent a dog for the day or something, was it? Or,
was it borrowyourdoggy.com?
yeah.
We used to just like borrow people's doggies.
which you could tell there was like a good atmosphere there. Do you know what I mean? That's what it's coming to. It's like whatever you all created was a good, the kind of you feel it when you walked into the door.
It's probably one of the biggest takeaways from that job. Is they got their culture spot on, and they treat their like people right, and they nurture like the culture there like really, really well. And it's probably my biggest takeaway, is something that I want to take from that job and move forward with, is like culture is everything. Like if people feel comfortable and valued, and they will, like, the work will follow.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you have to, but you also have to lead from the front and not from the back, because unless you can be that tyrant who's just like, right guys, crack on, but unless they see you getting involved and like demonstrating like that you can work hard too, that you're not going to earn the respect of the people that are working for you, essentially.
But maybe because you've been through different business, like different companies you work for,
Yeah.
When you got there, you kind of felt, you felt part of something. Because I see from my perspective for you that is a big part in our business that people feel like you more than anyone want to create like that working environment where people feel like they want to come to work and everyone's feels it inclusive of the business.
It's one of the most important things to get right. Everyone needs to feel like on the same page. Everyone needs to have like their, the North Star. Everyone's like aiming towards like the same thing. But like, yeah, everyone feels like valued and included because like, unless you get that right, yeah, it's just like, the last thing I want is for people who work, for Driven is to feel like it's just a job. It's not. It should be more than that. Like it should feel like you're part of like almost like a family, and we're part of something like bigger than that because like everything here is like accessible to everyone here at all times. Like I'll say that openly, and um, you should, unless you really care about what you do, particularly in the creative industry, it's that obsession that will make you better than everyone else. Because you can learn this stuff, you can check into YouTube how to shoot a music video, or how to shoot a corporate video, blah blah blah. Anyone can like pick up this stuff, but it's the passion and the care that will make that person go the extra sort of like 10% and obsess over it and get it that much better because they care about it, and the rest will follow. Like I don't, you could grab someone out of university or sort of like 2021. You don't expect them to like learn know everything, but if they got the appetite there, then they'll go far because the appetite will drive them, and you just have to create space where they're comfortable and feeling able to do that, I think.
So after Storm and Shelter, your long 4 years there, the valuable to the company, you've just decided to leave and wherever, and I think what you've told us is you wanted to really work on doing your own thing, your own baby.
Yeah.
Which led on to
freelance. I was freelance, prior to this business for about 2-3 years, that kind of thing, like doing my own thing, but like predominantly animation and video production. Like I still have the skill set of like designing that, but I don't really call myself a graphic designer anymore.
Right.
I there's a bigger demand for video, and I feel like I can do more damage with video than
you did for me. Personally, having experienced you, and I'm one of your biggest fans of what you do, and I always big you up to everyone I speak to. And like with the gym stuff, as soon as you come home, I had you on board with multiple stuff, didn't I? I'd always be in touch for anything I needed.
Yeah.
And I know it was quite hard to book you in because you're very busy at the time. But yeah, like the video stuff even then, it was insane. Like it put my business on another pedestal because of the perception from the video skill set you had even then.
Yeah.
Really like I said, put my stuff on another level. So, but
yeah, I guess like it just felt like, when I left Storm and Shelter, like I didn't really realize like the network that I built and the people around me, not only like direct clients, but agencies and stuff that I was kind of, friendly with because of all the years spent, not only like, in Cardiff, but London. A lot of the people I work for set up their own agencies, and they were all like firing work my way. So I got very, very busy very, very quickly, even though my intention after leaving was to have a bit of a break, because it felt like I was sort of like, chugging for years and years with no light at the end of the tunnel.
But as you said earlier, you created such like a good name for yourself, and like all the stuff you've done obviously leading to this point where you've created, like you had all these stripes as you mentioned earlier, and then because you were on your own anyway, people just, the demand was there then, was it?
Yeah.
People come from everywhere and
Yeah.
wanted a bit of you.
Yeah, pretty much.
So did I.
Yeah, it's a lot of corporate stuff, a lot of music videos, a lot of social ads, a lot of podcasts, that kind of stuff. I think.
Do you want to name a few of the names you worked with? Since
Yeah, so a good friend of mine, Hamish, who has his own production company, Trust Productions, like I've become really, really friendly with him. He's like a really close friend of mine. We worked together loads. And we worked on the Peter Crouch podcast. It's probably one of the biggest podcasts in the UK at the moment.
nice.
You see his face absolutely everywhere. Yeah, he got me in to work on the first series of the Peter Crouch podcast. Like, not every single episode, but a lot of them. That was an experience, just meeting him and how bloody tall he is. I mean, I'm short, but he's tall. And he's all shin. He's all shin. Like, it's all in his shins. His shins go up to my waist.
No.
But like...
All shin.
Yeah. Like, him and Abby, like, some of the...
Who's Abby?
Like, Abby Clancy.
I'm joking.
Like, two of the most, like, down-to-earth,
Who's Abby?
humble, like, really genuine people. Like,
Yeah.
you'd think, like, people in their position with everything that they've got, you know, with the kind of like net worth of the two of them, everything they're involved with, you'd assume anyone in those positions would be just, you know, like, wouldn't give you the time of day.
What are they like as people?
Shake my hand every time you remember my name and be like, oh, how you doing? Yeah, sit down, have a chat. And always give you the time of day, two of them. To the point where, like, you know, opportunity came up, like, it was 2 days before, but Hamish rang me, and I never know what phone call is going to come of Hamish. It could be literally anything. I was like, oh, what job you got now? And he's, just had a phone call from Abby. All right, okay. Relative of hers was getting married, and the person who was meant to be shooting there has got COVID. So do you want to go shoot a wedding? I was like, yeah. 2 days later, we were down in, Surrey, where they live, on some massive estate, tennis courts and fields, everything. They'd manufactured a beach on one of the fields. Shot the wedding, which, you know, I'm not a wedding shooter. I have shot a lot of weddings.
How many weddings have you shot? That's another question.
I don't even know. But that one was probably, you know, not only one of the best weddings, but probably one of the best jobs that I've ever done, because, you know, shooting a wedding is fairly straightforward. You don't have to set anything up. Everyone's happy. Everyone looks nice. You're in a really nice venue and the weather's nice. You point the camera at it and it'll look nice. Easy peasy. But like the people that were there, you know, you had, there's a guy from JLS, Humes, Marvin Humes.
Oh, yeah.
Michelle Humes. There was a few people from, like, Geordie Shore or Made in Chelsea, I think it was. Handful of rugby players, you know, Peter Crouch. Yeah, it was wild. They know how to party more than the rest of us, shall we say. And when we thought we'd finished the job at midnight, I was like, right, we'll pack up now. We were loading stuff into the van. Pete pissed. It's like, oh, boys, stay. Come on, stay. Have a drink. And we both looked at each other. I was like, go on then. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll stay. And he was just like, well, we'll have to get like a hotel. Pete was like, crash at ours. It's fine. And yeah, we just got absolutely fucked in a really short space of time. Yeah, I was drinking till like 6 o'clock in the morning. We crashed days, and then the following morning we was hanging out our ass. And woke up in the morning. I always remember Abby came into the room. Me and Hamish shared a bed together, and she was just like, grab some shorts, boys. Come down to the pool when you're ready. And yeah, we just sort of like, you know, wiped the crust from our eyes, walked downstairs, and was like, what the fuck is going on? How have we ended up here? Like, we just meant to be shooting a wedding, and we just, you know, accidentally just stayed overnight at theirs. But yeah, we spent most of the day there. Just like the weather was really nice. We had like a barbecue out by their pool, and wild, and absolutely wild. And we were just both like on the drive home, just looking at each other and thinking, did that just happen? Like, how? You know, in the space of 2 days, I was just, yeah.
All shin mind.
It was funny. Yeah.
Oh, you're all shin.
All shin, yeah. Peter Crouch, all shin. Yeah.
Lovely man.
And then, it kind of, we ended up having like a really good relationship with Pete and Abby then, because we like spent like a good time filming with them. We filmed like the first season finale, which was like in one of the biggest brew dogs in London, where we had like Clive Tildesley on. I think if people don't know that name, it's like he is the voice of football. He narrated like all the FIFA games. I recognise his voice before his face.
I bet a lot of people that's the case, yeah.
Yeah.
You know the voice straight away.
A good, like a football fan, you mentioned Clive Tildesley and they'll know who he is. But yeah, literally when as soon as he started to introduce and he put on this like commentator voice, I was like, I know you. I know your voice. Why do I know your voice? And then Googled him. I was like, oh yeah, bloody hell, he's like massive. But yeah, that was like a great way. But then we got asked to film like one more, which is like hilarious. They asked us basically to film their live podcast that they were doing in Wembley Arena. 12,000 people, mind. It was huge. And how they managed to like pack that out for a podcast is wild to me. But they did. The things they had planned for it and stuff. And I will never forget, right? Because it was all over social media the following day, all over like Twitter, everywhere. They basically got
Wayne Lineker.
Wayne Lineker, sorry, on as a guest. And they had this sort of like VIP booth, off center stage, like a separate thing where they'd introduce and they'd go and sit and they'd kind of like watch the show, and they'd occasionally like dip over to him. It's like, oh, what do you think? Blah, blah, blah. But I will never forget, because we were given like full access all with the camera, because we were like documenting and creating like a highlight film of the podcast, not like the live, but a highlight. And I was right next to him as they introduced him, they sat him down, they started talking, asking questions, and then suddenly in the crowd you just hear people starting to chant like
Pardon?
And the entire arena just like erupted and was just trying to get louder than him talking. And I was just there.
Why?
With the camera, just because.
Why did they say that?
His reputation, basically.
That's
and
terrible.
Everything. I was stood right next to him as 12,000 people chanted this. And I wanted the earth just to like swallow me up, because I was dying holding this camera like on him as like needless to say, they cut that bit out of like the entire thing, and I don't think it really exists online. Like all the posts do and stuff, but in the actual like full episode on YouTube, they cut it out, obviously. But oh my god,
why though? Why didn't they go like Walkers or something rather than?
It's all his like all the stuff around him in Ibiza at the time and all that stuff, which
hard.
I won't comment on, but like that, oh my god. Yeah, probably one of the worst like live showing experiences in my life.
12,000 people, man.
12,000 people, yeah. Oh yeah, bloody hell, yeah. So his like reaction to that was just he cut it like soon as the like crowd overpowered him and he couldn't answer any question. He just like, no, ain't doing it anymore. Off stage, done. They had to like on the fly like rework like the plan and the script and stuff, because in between it was like almost like small intermissions. They dive back to him, throw questions at him, and then go back to the show sort of thing. But he weren't there anymore. He was just like, nah, out. I ain't dealing with that. I mean, like, fair enough.
Not
like,
of him,
I wanted to die on stage, and I can't imagine how he felt, but I remember him just storming off the stage.
Yeah. And then we go on to, so you just filming with all these celebrities, a lot of high end stuff as well as stuff at home.
Yeah.
And then, you're kind of doing a bit with me as well, and I had a chat with you one day.
Yeah.
kind of thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I think like, we kind of work together on the branding and the the early kind of stage stuff with the gym.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of just naturally like work quite well together, and we kind
Yeah.
of saw eye to eye on a lot of things, and just probably through each of our experiences grew to become like a very similar person in what we're doing, and like strive to be better and like all that kind of stuff. So I think that's probably what has kind of brought this on, and why we work so well together, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, like I big you up to everyone, and everywhere we go, I always go, "Oh, look, this is Alex, he's the goat of this. This is what he does." And like in this game, especially, I think with both of us, it's like some people do it because they have to. With us is kind of come together because we provide different parts to what this process is, and you can demonstrate it to other people, if you know what I mean. You make it look that good.
Yeah.
That is so believable from all aspects.
Yeah. Well, it's how my brain works. Like, I
Yeah.
think if we were talking about ideas now, my brain instantly goes, so how do I visualize that? But then also, how do people perceive that?
Yeah.
How do you visualize that in a way to have people perceive it in a way that you want them to be perceived as?
Yeah.
In everything, branding, video, photography, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to be perceived as a big business, then cool. Then how do you need to look? What kind of video do we need to do? What kind of photography needs to sit in amongst that? What kind of website does it need to be?
So if we talk about our company specifically, then what do you think was like, with all your expertise and journey of everything up until this point? Because obviously we're doing very well at the minute in the short space of time. From your input, what do you think like the most important things that you've done, because you've created the brand and the name and all this stuff? Like, what's like the input from your point of view, importance wise?
Well, I think like from the start, I think we both saw an opportunity to fill a gap in the market. I think because you either tend to have these like really, really expensive high end like studios who make really, really good stuff but come with a massive price tag, versus your smaller like social agencies who don't have the real experience of like the higher end stuff to do things at a standard that they may want to do it at. So like there's somewhere in between, because the appetite of all this social stuff, like as I found over the years, like people just want social content. I need social content. I need a regular. I need a consistent in order to keep up with everyone else. And there's almost like a middle ground between this high end stuff and like the social first stuff that I think we've kind of found we found our niche with, essentially, because you have to think of people's habits, and there's a lot of psychology involved. Hooking people in the first 2 seconds. How do you retain the attention throughout like the video? How do you tailor that video for each of the platforms? That kind of stuff. So, but it's applying like, the higher end visual stuff with marrying that up with the social trends and social sort of like ways of making content, and getting the blend of the two, I think, is
Spot on, I think. And like at the minute, you've got a lot going on because you've obviously got this place, you've got your own work that you work on as well as our business. You've got a lot of different stuff going on at the minute, haven't you?
Yeah.
So how do you, like we talk about work-life balance, do you find like you're at a happy place in your life currently with everything, or do you find like you've got a good balance, or where do you see yourself at the minute in your own mental headspace?
It fluctuates. Like, I think when I take on too much, sometimes it's out of your control, because some projects take a little bit longer to do, or some things creep up on a little bit sooner or whatever. So some things are out of your control, but it does fluctuate quite a lot, quite drastically, because you get one big project in that consumes you, whilst everything else is going on, and it can be like all consuming, especially when you want to do things of a certain like level. But and I'm kind of like realistic to that, but I try and like take the opportunities where things aren't so chaotic to kind of get that time back that I almost owe myself in order to kind of catch up on, l- uh, health,
Yeah.
and like hobbies and that kind of stuff, because it does become quite consuming, and it can affect like the relationships around you sometimes. Um, but it's just, yeah, taking those opportunities, like when things are going well, like, yeah, push it on. But when you have those gaps to breathe, like breathe and allow it to breathe, I think.
Push harder. Even more work it. But you're all right, because I think it's a common misconception, especially people like us that do everything on their own accord ourselves. You're in a worse position than anyone out there, because everything is dependent on you. Business, so everything is dependent on yourself, and you're tied by blood to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you're in, especially when you're employing people, you're in the trenches every day. You get less. People think, oh, you got your own business. Oh, you get more free time, you get more money. It is a load of bull, because you're tied by blood, as you said, and as you know, because you got multiple stuff going on as well. That,
But I think the biggest difference, like, I think I'm a biggest driver for me leaving my last job is this work-life balance thing. I wanted to be spending more time doing, other stuff, but since I left, I probably work more.
but I think you work on the squad.
Yeah, but it's more like satisfying. Like, I get more out of it. I get more like, I'm more motivated by what I do because it's my own baby. It's always what I wanted to do. So like, I'm fine with working longer hours on something that is mine, that,
Yeah.
that I shape, and I'm more willing to put in that time, because even though some nights when I get home 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night sometimes, like the sense of like achievement that even though I'm like, knackered, I have this like massive sense of like, I've achieved something today. I've moved forward with this kind of stuff, versus when you're sort of, in a job that you may not necessarily like want to be in, or don't align with the company, that kind of stuff. Whereas it just becomes a job then, which is why I always like, I never want to like provide jobs to people. It's more of a, here's a place where you can do the thing that you love to do.
Yeah. No, I think you are like that, and I think half the battle of the experiences has shaped you. I think without all the experience you might have had, you wouldn't value creating this as much as maybe you have, or would have had maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in this game, like, it's the passion that'll like differentiate you between everyone else. And you make a space where, people can build on that, and then, you sort of like, you're onto a winner, I think.
Where do you see the business, as in this business, going forward
Yeah.
for the next few years, and what goals you have for it in your head personally?
I mean, I naturally am like more attached to like the creative side of thing, and so it's becoming a bit of a leader in this. I mean, it's not a new realm, but we're trying to like separate ourselves a little bit by marrying up these two things. So it's becoming a leader in that area. And I think like, with what we have available to us and the people and the team, I think we're more than capable of doing that. Because I mean, throughout the years of working at all these different places, I don't see why it couldn't be. Because, we're, I mean, you see some people who have gone into the positions that they have at some of these like really big high end agencies and studios, and you think like, how have you got there? So we're more than capable of doing that. But also a place that people like admire and want to work. Like, I think if you create that kind of space, like, you will naturally attract the kind of people that you want to work to you, rather than like trying to find those people. You should like attract that kind of stuff, that kind of people who share the same values and principles and like motives.
So, like, being a creative director, is there any sort of advice you would give to anyone starting out in the industry? If you went back in time now to a younger version of yourself, I know you're still young, but younger version,
Yeah.
any top tips or advice you'd? Because obviously you were like you said about didn't drawing and stuff at the time.
Mm.
Then to that converted into what you're doing now, you wouldn't really.
Yeah. I say like find the thing that really makes you tick. I think with creative stuff you have to enjoy what you do in order to be better than everyone else. Because it almost doesn't become about being better then, because you're just doing your thing. You just, you want to like get better for your own sake. So then you create a level of work that is like already head and shoulders above everyone else who is just doing it for a job, who is just doing it to fill the time. And as soon as you find that thing that like makes you tick, that you obsess over, that kind of keeps you up at night, that you're sort of like waking up 2 o'clock in the morning because you've had an idea and you have to grab your phone and write that note down. Okay, yeah, remember that. It's that kind of stuff, that level of obsession or passion that will separate you from everyone else, because everyone can do this kind of stuff nowadays. It's that passion that'll make you different, I think. But also another thing is, and it stuck with me for years and years. It was told to me in a talk off the back of like the awards stuff. He was a creative director of one of the larger agencies that we visited. It stuck with me for years and years. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Stuck with me like years and years. Like, your comfort zone is the worst place that you can be. As soon as you like start to get comfortable, you're obviously not like learning or growing. And if you're not learning or growing, you're falling behind, because this stuff changes. And if you're not, if you're not your own worst critic and analyzing and going like, how can I make that better? Then your work stagnates. You just hit a standard that is good enough. And then you kind of go, okay, that'll do. And you'll never become like, a leader or someone that people, people never admire the work, I think, unless you're at that level of like obsession or passion about it. But it's finding that thing, I think. As soon as you find that thing that you're passionate about, like, everything else will fall into place, because you will give it the time. Like, you will want to learn about it. You will be researching all the time in your spare time because you want to. It's no longer a chore.
And that's it for this episode with Alex Bull the Goat and myself. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And for more upcoming content, like and subscribe. We look forward to seeing you soon. Simply lovely.